The story begins with a delivery boy named Tae Jin. He is extremely poor, which is why he works day and night to earn money. He also takes care of all the expenses of his younger brother, Jin, including his education. Tae Jin delivers all his orders extremely quickly. He even helps his friends by delivering their orders whenever they need him. One night, a rich girl and her boyfriend snatch a parcel from Tae Jin and throw it into the street. Tae Jin gets extremely angry when he sees this, so he immediately gets on his motorcycle and starts chasing them. Tae Jin is a very experienced rider and rides his motorcycle extremely fast. He doesn't let the couple disappear from his sight and eventually catches them by taking a shortcut. He stops his motorcycle right in front of them. Then he picks up the food they had thrown into the road. Tae Jin gives the food back to them and demands that they pay for it. Soon, people from the neighborhood gather around. To avoid being humiliated in front of everyone, the rich guy is forced to pay Tae Jin. After finishing his work, Tae Jin goes to meet his younger brother, Jin. Tae Jin loves his younger brother very much because the two brothers are essentially all the family they have left. Tae Jin is also extremely fond of plants. In fact, he is planning to open his own cafe. Before leaving, Tae Jin gets a little angry with his brother because Jin has been failing his exams. He tells him to focus completely on his studies. Then Tae Jin leaves on his motorcycle. When Jin gets home, he discovers that Tae Jin has transferred 500 won into his account so that he can continue his studies without worrying about money. Meanwhile, Tae Jin buys fertilizer for his plants. He takes great care of them. His friends are also helping him decorate the cafe because it is going to open in just a few days. Then Tae Jin's fiancée, Suyeon, brings food for everyone. They all sat together, eat, laugh, and have a good time. Later, Tae Jin and Suyeon talk privately. They love each other very much and are planning to get married soon. Suyeon tells him, "I like you because you're such a hard-working person. You have struggled so much to get where you are." At that moment, we also notice that Tae Jin and Suyeon are both wearing bracelets. These bracelets are basically their engagement rings. Tae Jin doesn't have enough money to buy a gold ring, so the two of them use bracelets instead. The next morning, Tae Jin wakes up very early and prepares food for the entire day. Then he goes to work and begins delivering orders. But Tae Jin has absolutely no idea that someone has already planned every second of this particular day. In fact, someone has planned a huge conspiracy to destroy his life. And we will find out about it later. After delivering a parcel, Tae Jin turns around to leave. But at that exact moment, the elevator goes upstairs. So he has no choice but to use the stairs. While walking down, he notices a plant that is dying because it hasn't been properly taken care of. Tae Jin moves the plant away from the sunlight and places it somewhere more suitable. Then he writes a note for the owner explaining how to take proper care of the plant. But Tae Jin has no idea that this simple act is going to become one of the biggest mistakes of his life. Later, an elderly woman asks Tae Jin to help her carry a bag across the street. Tae Jin is a genuinely kind-hearted person, so he agrees to help her. But he has absolutely no idea what is inside that bag. That night, Tae Jin buys some food from a shop and sits outside to eat. Suddenly, he hears a phone ringing near him. At first, Tae Jin gets a little nervous, but then he picks up the phone and answers the call. A girl is on the other end. She tells him that the phone belongs to her. She asks Tae Jin to deliver it to her address. At first, Tae Jin clearly refuses, but then the girl offers him 300,000 won. Tae Jin is tempted by the money and agrees to deliver the phone. After receiving the address, he starts his motorcycle and headed towards the location. When he reaches the address, he finds a tunnel there. Tae Jin immediately feels that something is strange. Then the girl calls him again. She tells him that there is an emergency phone box inside the tunnel. She tells him to leave the phone there, and his payment will also be waiting there. Tae Jin wants to deliver the phone directly to her home, but the girl refuses to give him her home address. Tae Jin eventually enters the tunnel. He places the phone inside the emergency phone box and takes the 300,000 won. But just as he is about to leave, a truck suddenly shines its high beam highlighting directly at him. Tae Jin has no idea why the truck is doing this. The next day, Tae Jin is extremely happy. After all, he has just earned 300,000 won by delivering a single phone. A little later, his younger brother arrives and the two brothers have breakfast together. But that afternoon, Tae Jin is alone at home. It is raining heavily outside. Suddenly, the police break down the door and rush inside. Tae Jin desperately tries to escape, but the police tackle him on the ground and arrest him. As soon as Tae Jin reaches the police station, he is surrounded by journalists. Everyone is asking him questions about a murder he knows absolutely nothing about. The news spreads throughout the country like wildfire. Everyone starts believing that Tae Jin is the real murderer, and everyone wants him punished. Inside the police station, officers accuse Tae Jin of raping a woman and then murdering her. Tae Jin desperately tries to explain that he has never ever seen the woman in his entire life. He tells him, "You've made a mistake. I don't know this woman." But the police officer tells him, "You will be punished for what you have done." Tae Jin keeps insisting that he is innocent, but nobody listens. And despite everything happening around him, Tae Jin is still worried about his plants. He keeps thinking, who will take care of my plants now? He is afraid that his plants will die while he is away. Meanwhile, the woman's body is discovered inside a suitcase. And this is the same suitcase that Tae Jin had helped an elderly woman carry across the street the previous day. Tae Jin's friends come to visit him. He asks them to take care of his plants, but then his friends give him even worse news. His personal information has been leaked online, and private pictures of Tae Jin and Soo-yeon have also been uploaded to social media. Soo-yeon is devastated when she sees them. She even begins wondering whether Tae Jin himself uploaded these private pictures. Perhaps she starts questioning whether she really knows the man she loves. Inside the jail, Tae Jin tells the investigator, "I didn't kill anyone. When are you going to let me go?" The investigator replies, "If your innocence is proven, you will be released. Otherwise, you will spend the rest of your life in prison." Tae Jin becomes furious. "I didn't do anything." But inside the prison, nobody cares about what he says. Eventually, Tae Jin becomes completely helpless and emotionally broken. He cannot understand how his life suddenly turned into this nightmare. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon closes her shop and hires a lawyer to defend Tae Jin. The lawyer tells her that they don't have much time and must act quickly. Tae Jin's friends take good care of his plants. They also decide that they will do everything possible to get Tae Jin out of prison. The next day, Soo-yeon visits Tae Jin in jail. There is still a small doubt in her mind. She wonders whether Tae Jin might actually have committed the crime. But Tae Jin convinces her that he could never do something like that. Soo-yeon eventually believes him. She tells him, "I'll do everything I can to get you out of here. Just take care of yourself inside." After that, Soo-yeon, Jin, and Tae Jin's friend meet the lawyer again. The lawyer tells them, "If you want to save Tae Jin, we have to prove that he was working as a delivery driver when the woman was murdered." So they need to create a very detailed timeline of Tae Jin's movement over the previous 2 days. Everyone likes the idea. Unfortunately, this isn't impossible. Tae Jin has kept every delivery receipt. Suyeon, Jin, and Tae Jin's friend decide to work together to prove his innocence. Suyeon asks Tae Jin about every tiny detail from the previous 2 days. They collect all of his delivery receipts. Then they begin visiting every address where Tae Jin delivered orders during those 2 days. Their goal is to prove exactly where Tae Jin was at every moment. Everyone who knows Tae Jin knows that he is a good and honest person, so the people who knows him agrees to help. There are still a few missing pieces in the timeline, so they meet Tae Jin again. He tries to remember where he went during those missing periods. They also obtain surveillance camera footage that can confirm his movements. Finally, they manage to create an extremely detailed timeline covering the previous 2 days. Even the lawyer is shocked by how much information they have managed to collect. The timeline clearly shows that Tae Jin barely stopped working. He used almost every second of his day to make deliveries. According to the timeline, he simply didn't have enough time to commit a murder. The lawyer tells them, "What a timeline this! With a timeline this detailed, we can easily win this case." Everyone becomes extremely happy. They believe Tae Jin will soon be released. Suyeon is also shocked when she sees the timeline. She realized just how hard Tae Jin had been working day and night to earn money. Finally, the day of the court hearing arrives. Jin and Suyeon assures Tae Jin, "Nothing is going to happen to you." The lawyer presents the complete timeline of Tae Jin's movements during the 2 days before his arrest. He explains to the judge that Tae Jin was constantly working and that there is a record of almost every moment he made. Everyone in the area also knows that Tae Jin is a hardworking and honest person. So it seems impossible that he could have found enough time to murder the victim. Everything appears to prove that Tae Jin is innocent. But then, the prosecutor stands up and everything changes. The prosecutor says, "I don't think Tae Jin looks like a murderer either, but the secret of his murder is actually hidden inside the timeline the defense created." According to the timeline, Tae Jin has delivered an order to the victim. But there was something strange. Tae Jin had taken 7 minutes to complete that delivery. According to the prosecutor, 7 minutes was far too long for a normal delivery, and those 7 minutes were exactly when Tae Jin could have committed the murder. Tae Jin suddenly remembered what happened. He had noticed a plant at the location. He moved it away from the sunlight and left a note explaining how to care for it. That's why he spent 7 minutes there. But the prosecutor isn't finished. He presents video footage showing Tae Jin carrying a heavy bag. Tae Jin explains, "An elderly woman asked me to help her. I carried her bag across the street." But the video shows only Tae Jin. The elderly woman herself is not visible. The prosecutor then reveals something horrifying. That was the same bag in which the victim's body was later found. The prosecutor tells Tae Jin, "Let's assume you really were helping an old woman, but we have plenty of other evidence." He then shows CCTV footage. In that footage, Tae Jin is seen with the victim's phone. Tae Jin is completely shocked. He says, "I found that phone on the street." But the prosecutor explains that the victim's body was found not far from the place where Tae Jin delivered the phone. The prosecution claims that Tae Jin later threw the woman's body into the water at night, and the truck's headlight supposedly helped capture Tae Jin on a surveillance camera. Then comes another devastating piece of evidence. According to a GPS data, the victim's phone had been with Tae Jin throughout the day. Wherever Tae Jin went, the victim's phone appeared at the same location. Tae Jin becomes extremely nervous. He doesn't understand what is happening. But then, the prosecutor presents one final piece of evidence that seemed to make escape impossible. He shows photographs from the crime scene. The prosecutor claims that during those 7 minutes, Tae Jin entered the bathroom and brutally murdered the woman, and in one of the crime scene photographs, there appears to be the same bracelet that Tae Jin and Soo-yeon used as their engagement rings. Soo-yeon sees the photograph, and suddenly she becomes convinced that Tae Jin really did kill the woman. The prosecutor then attacks Tae Jin's explanation about the blonde. She says Tae Jin's claim that he spent 7 minutes taking care of a blonde is a lie. The prosecution shows photographs of the entire hotel. There isn't a single plant there. Then the prosecutor presents a report that allegedly proves Tae Jin had sexually assaulted the woman. With so much evidence against him, Tae Jin's chances of escaping seem almost impossible. He stands up and desperately tries to explain himself to the judge. "I didn't do anything, I'm innocent." But nobody listens. The police takes him back into custody. Tae Jin keeps screaming that he is innocent, but the officers take him away. Eventually, Tae Jin is sentenced to life in prison. The next morning, Soo-yeon visits Tae Jin in prison. She tells him that his lawyer has refused to continue fighting his case, and no other lawyer is willing to take the case because everyone believes Tae Jin brutally murdered the woman. Then Soo-yeon asks Tae Jin to show her the bracelet they both used as their engagement rings. But then, Tae Jin looks at his wrist. The bracelet isn't there. Soo-yeon had seen the bracelet in the crime scene photograph during the trial. So now she believes Tae Jin really is the murderer. Tae Jin desperately explained that he had lost the bracelet somewhere inside his house. But Soo-yeon thinks he's lying. Whatever trust he still had in Tae Jin finally disappears. She gives the bracelet back to him. Then she tells him, "I don't want to be in a relationship with a murderer." Tae Jin is devastated. He tells Soo-yeon that he is innocent and that the truth will eventually come out. But Soo-yeon has already made her decision. She leaves him to face his fate alone. A few days later, a prison bus leaves the police station. Tae Jin is inside. He is being transferred to another prison. The prison he is being sent to is a high-security facility. Escaping from this place is almost impossible. When the new prisoners get off the bus, the existing inmates mock them and shout abuse at them. Inside the prison, the new inmates are told when they will work, when they will eat, and when they will be allowed to do basic things. They are allowed to shower only once a week. Then they go through a strict inspection, and after that, each prisoner receives a new identity. Tae Jin is now officially labeled a murderer. The next morning, a lawyer named Kim meets Tae Jin. Kim tells him, "I've gone through your entire case file. I think you have been wrongfully convicted." He says he doesn't agree with the court's decision. He believes someone deliberately framed Tae Jin in a false case. Tae Jin tells him, "Nobody believes me anymore. Even my own people have abandoned me. They all think I'm a murderer." Kim reassures him, "I believe everything you're saying." Kim takes out a notebook and his phone and starts recording everything. He tells Tae Jin to think carefully and remember anything that might help him reopen the case. One thing has been bothering Tae Jin. The bracelet found at the crime scene wasn't his. It belongs to someone else. Then Tae Jin remembers something. His own bracelet had fallen somewhere inside his brother's room. Kim tells him, "I will investigate this properly. This small clue might be enough to reopen your case." Kim takes Tae Jin's home address. Before leaving, he tells Tae Jin, "Don't tell anyone about our conversation." For the first time in a long time, Tae Jin feels a little hope. Maybe this lawyer can actually prove his innocence. Kim gives him his card and leaves. But while Tae Jin is returning to his cell, several prisoners suddenly grab him. Tae Jin asks the guard for help, but the guards ignore him. These prisoners belong to the biggest gang in the prison. Their leader is a man named Daksu. The guards are also working with him because Daksu pays them. The other prisoners call Daksu the manager of the prison. He treats the prison like his personal kingdom. He takes money from other inmates. Anyone who refuses to pay him gets punished. Daksu men drag Tae Jin to him. They force Tae Jin to kneel in front of Daksu. Daksu asks, "How many years were you sentenced to?" Tae Jin remains silent. He tries to escape, but Daksu's men grab him and throw him in the ground. Daksu tells him, "A prisoner may enter this prison by his own choice, but whether he leaves alive is up to me." Then he threatens Tae Jin. "If you don't answer my question, I'll cut off both your hands." Tae Jin becomes terrified. He finally answers, "I was sentenced to life imprisonment." Daksu already knows that Tae Jin was sent to prison for a rape and murder case, so he tells him, "I'm going to make your life a living hell." Just then, the guards arrive. Daksu lets Tae Jin go. Tae Jin is sent back to his cell. There is already another prisoner inside. That prisoner also began harassing him. But Tae Jin still has hope. He believes Lawyer Kim will prove his innocence. At mealtime, Tae Jin takes his food and sits far away from Daksu. Two prisoners sit beside him. They tell Tae Jin that Daksu had originally been sentenced to life imprisonment, but he come from an extremely wealthy family. He bribed powerful officials and managed to reduce his sentence to only 10 years. Then they tell Tae Jin something much worse. Daksu hates prisoners accused of sexual assault. Why? Because his own sister was once sexually assaulted. She was later brutally murdered. That's why Daksu makes life miserable for anyone who comes to prison on a sexual assault charge. Tae Jin becomes terrified. He is also accused of rape, so he knows Daksu won't leave him alone. The two prisoners tell him, "If you stay with us, we will protect you from Daksu." They offer him a place in their gang. Tae Jin believes them. He agrees to join, but it is all a trap. They lie to him and take him into the bathroom. They tell him they need to discuss something important with him. Tae Jin doesn't know that they are actually Daksu's men. Several other prisoners are already waiting there. They grab Tae Jin, then they sexually assault him. Tae Jin screams for help, but nobody comes. The next day, Tae Jin is completely devastated. Then Kim brings him another terrible piece of news. Kim tells him, "I went to your house to investigate, but when I arrived, your brother has committed suicide. He had even live streamed his suicide on YouTube." Tae Jin completely breaks down. Now he feels that there is nobody left in the world who belongs to him. And Daksu's men continue humiliating him. Tae Jin realizes that he has no family, no support, and no reason left to live. His life begins to feel like a burden, so Tae Jin decides to kill himself, just like his brother. He attempts to hang himself, but the guards arrive in time and take him to the hospital. His life is saved, but within just 1 month, Tae Jin attempts suicide 3 times, and each time he survives. At the hospital, another prisoner named Yong notices Tae Jin's condition. He feels deeply sorry for him. Doctors give Tae Jin sedative because he has completely broken down mentally and emotionally. Days continues to pass. Eventually, Tae Jin completes 1 year inside the prison. He receives treatment for several months. His friends come to visit him every month, but Tae Jin refuses to meet anyone. Then Easter Sunday arrives. By the point, Tae Jin's conditions has improved slightly, so he goes to a church inside the prison. Yong also works there as an altar server. He notices Tae Jin. After all the prisoners leave, Yong approaches him and gives him a cake. Yong tries to talk to Tae Jin. He tells him that he needs to learn how to control himself. He needs to understand that prison is now his home. Then Tae Jin notices several scars on Yong's hand. He immediately realized that Yong had also attempted suicide. Yong tells him, "I know, you have been trying to take your own life." Then Yong tells Tae Jin his own story. He says, "I've been serving in this church for 15 years. But even after all these years, I still don't feel like I belong here. I was just like you. Then I first come to prison. I was terrified. I didn't want to live, but I still managed to adjust to this life. Then Young gave Tae Jin some advice. You only get one life. Find a purpose and live for it. Keep yourself busy with something. This difficult period will eventually pass. One day you'll look back and it will feel as if those difficult days never ever happened. Young's word touched Tae Jin's deeply. Suddenly, Tae Jin breaks down crying, and at that moment he makes a decision. He will no longer waste his time. When he returns to his cell, Tae Jin writes down a daily routine for himself. He wants to keep himself busy and give his life some purpose. Daksu's men continue beating him whenever they get the chance. So Tae Jin begins exercising every day to protect himself. He also starts reading book in the prison library. Then Tae Jin notices an empty piece of land inside the prison. A police officer gives him some seeds. Tae Jin prepares his soil and plants them. He already knows a lot about plants because of his passion for gardening. At the same time, he starts taking courses in the prison repair workshop. Every day, Tae Jin exercises. Days turn to weeks, weeks into months. He develops a strict workout routine and follows it consistently. Whenever Daksu sees Tae Jin, he attacks him. But Tae Jin begins treating every attack as part of his training. He endures every punch. Slowly, he becomes stronger. He also starts eating more, becoming physically strong and more powerful. His plants begin growing too. And Tae Jin continues taking care of him. He strictly follows his daily routine. Young gives Tae Jin a book. Tae Jin reads it and learns how to survive inside prison. Young and Tae Jin become close friends. Their friendship becomes even more important as time passes, and before Tae Jin realizes it, 5 years has passed. Meanwhile, we are shown the house of an extremely wealthy man. He enters a private room. In front of him is a huge screen connected to thousands of surveillance cameras. He watches countless people through the cameras. After a while, he finds a young man who will be useful for his next mission. Back in prison, Tae Jin is taking care of his plants. A prison guard named Tony approaches him. Tony talks to Tae Jin like a friend. He has also helped Tae Jin grow his plants. Tony gives Tae Jin one of his own plants. He tells him, "Something is wrong with my plant. I think it has a disease." Tae Jin takes one look at it and immediately understands the problem. As always, Tae Jin is willing to help others, so he agrees to take care of Tony's plant. A little later, Young arrives with a cake. Young tells Tae Jin, "Many prisoners here are proud of the crime they have committed, but you are not like them. You are a good person." Then Young gives Tae Jin some bad news. He tells him, "Today is my last day in prison. From tomorrow, you will work in the church in my place." Young is sad. He has spent 25 years of his life in prison. He has forgotten how to live outside. Tae Jin becomes emotional because he realizes that he may never see Young again. He tries to hold back his tears and congratulates Young. As Young prepares to leave, Tae Jin asks, "Why were you always so kind to me?" Young answers, "I only wanted to teach you that even inside prison, you can still choose to become a good person." Tae Jin says goodbye to Young. He bows respectfully and thanks him for helping him survive prison. After Young leaves, Tae Jin becomes an altar server. One day, Tae Jin is sitting outside when he notices a new prisoner. The other prisoners are making fun of him and bullying him. Seeing this reminds Tae Jin of his own past. He remembers how frightening and alone he once was. Tony brings the new prisoner to Tae Jin at the church. Tae Jin sits down and talks to him. The new prisoner introduces himself as Milo. Milo tells Tae Jin, "I'm innocent." Then he tells Tae Jin his story. One day, he heard a phone ringing on the street. He picked it up. There was a girl on the other end. She told him that if he returned her phone, she would pay him. Tae Jin is shocked. He immediately realized that Milo may have been deliberately framed too. Milo continues, he agreed to return the phone, but the surveillance camera recording him carrying it, and someone had already planned a murder case against him. Even more shocking, his fingerprints were found at the murder scene. Yet, Milo insists that he had never ever been to that location. Tae Jin is stunned. His situation was almost exactly the same. Then Milo reveals something extremely important. He says, "Yesterday morning, a lawyer named Kim come to see me. He come again today." Then Kim told Milo that his mother had committed suicide. Milo realized that the lawyer is part of the conspiracy. Tae Jin becomes convinced that Milo is telling the truth. Kim had also told Tae Jin to keep their conversation secret. Tae Jin returns to his cell. He spends the entire night thinking he never had any enemies. So who had planned all of this against him? He can't sleep. The next morning, he hears the guards outside. When he goes out to see what happened, he discovers that Milo has committed suicide. Tae Jin becomes furious. He makes a decision. Whoever is behind this conspiracy, he will take revenge. The next day, Tae Jin meets Kim. Kim has come to collect new information that could supposedly help reopen Tae Jin's case, but Tae Jin tells him about Milo. "Milo told me everything. You're just pretending to help us." And that's when Kim's true identity is finally revealed. He isn't really a lawyer. He is working for someone else. Tae Jin asks, "Who killed my brother?" Tae Jin becomes furious and attacks Kim. He demands the name of the person behind everything. The guards arrive and grab Tae Jin, but Kim tells them to leave. The Kim finally tells Tae Jin the truth. "Someone deliberately sent you to prison using a fake case. Your brother was also killed. We were the ones who planted the phone. And that bracelet wasn't yours either." Kim laughs. "What are you going to do about it? You're trapped in here. You can't do anything." Tae Jin asks, "Did you kill my brother?" Kim doesn't hesitate. "Yes, I killed him. You're in prison. You can't touch me." Tae Jin makes him a promise. "I will get out of this prison, and when I do, I'll destroy every one of you." When Kim leaves the prison, he calls his boss. He says, "One of the prisoners know about us. We need to get rid of him." Later, Tae Jin goes to church, but he quits his job as an altar server because now his life has only one purpose: escape from prison, and then get revenge on the man who sent him there. Tae Jin sits at the table. He begins trying to remove a nail. He pulls it with all his strength. His hand starts bleeding, but his nail is going to become very important to him later. The story then shifts to an antique auction. The bidding price for an antique item is rapidly increasing. A wealthy man named Shen keeps placing the highest bid. He desperately wants to buy this item, but there's something strange. Shen himself isn't actually interested in antiques. An unknown person online keeps betting higher than him. Soon, the price of a seemingly worthless antique reaches 3 billion won. Shen asks for a break and goes to the bathroom. He calls a man named John. Shen says, "I'm trying to buy this antique, but the price has become so high that only a crazy person would pay this much." John replies, "The price you're paying for that antique is actually the price of your son's life. You have to get that antique no matter what. If you don't, your son can prepare to spend the rest of his life in prison." Then John hangs up. Shen returns to the auction hall. Now he is determined to win the auction at any cost. But Shen has no idea that the person betting against him online is John himself. John sits inside a private room and keeps increasing the online bet. As the price continues rising, Shen becomes extremely nervous, but he doesn't want his son to go to prison. So with great difficulty, Shen places a bid of 6 billion won. Finally, Shen wins the auction. He takes the antique item and gives it to John. Then we see John's life. Despite being relatively young, John is a billionaire. His house is filled with some of the world's most expensive antiques. But there's something much darker about him. John specializes in creating false crime cases against people. When a wealthy person commits a murder, John finds an innocent person and makes sure the blame falls on him. Then he charges wealthy clients billions of won. In return, he tells them to purchase rare antique items. John's house is filled with those antiques. The antiques are essentially payment for his criminal services. After the auction, John calls Son. He tells him, "Your son's case is now permanently closed. Miller went to prison in your son's place. He died in prison this morning. Your son is completely safe now." And that's when we realize Miller was also sent to prison because of John. John also owns several major businesses, including a real estate company. Remember when Kim met Tae Jin and later left the prison? Kim contacted John. He told John that Tae Jin had discovered the truth. John now wants Tae Jin eliminated. So he calls a doctor and orders him to kill Tae Jin inside the prison. Meanwhile, inside the prison, Daksu's men stop Tae Jin. Daksu orders them to break Tae Jin's bones. But after 4 years of continuous training, Tae Jin is no longer the weak man he once was. As soon as Daksu's men attack him, Tae Jin takes them down one by one. Within moments, Daksu's men are completely defeated. Tae Jin looks at Daksu and says, "I'm letting you go today, but next time I'll do the same thing to you that I did to your men." For the first time, Daksu is genuinely afraid of someone. His reputation is destroyed in front of all the prisoners. Now he wants revenge against Tae Jin more than ever. Later, two prisoners are sitting together talking about how badly Tae Jin beat Daksu's men. But they don't realize that Daksu is listening. Daksu suddenly attacks them. He brutally beats one of them. Nobody comes forward to stop him. Daksu's men even kept the guards away. Then a new prisoner arrives. His name is Genji. Genji and Daksu used to be enemies inside the prison, but now they have become allies. And now the big question is, will Tae Jin survive inside the prison? Will he manage to escape? And how will he take revenge on John for the death of his brother? To find out, watch the next part. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and drop a nice emoji in the comments.